Concerning education by the Suzuki Method, the thing we consider most important is that none of our pupils drop out along the way, but instead all develop fully. This is our aim. And to achieve it, we have found that perhaps the most appropriate model for a method of education is that method by which we all learn our mother tongue. Now, every child in the world picks up the language of his own country just exactly as it is, right down to the delicate nuances and local dialect. And not one of them gives up on the way, saying that he dislikes learning his mother tongue. At least I've never heard of such a case. On the contrary, everyone grows up to have quite a high level of ability. We believe this fact shows clearly that for all children, in this same way, if this same learning process, this mother tongue method of education, were effectively applied to all types of education, that all children, or we can even say all people, could master any subject to the same level of accomplishment as that which they have reached in learning to speak their own mother tongue. In this education, this teaching of music I'm doing, I've been studying how this mother tongue method can be applied in comparison to other teaching methods. Now, considering the other teaching methods widely used heretofore, the usual thing is a pupil learns a piece. As soon as he can play it, the teacher gives him the next one, and he starts to learn it. And so on and so on. They continue giving him one piece after another. There's no room in such a process for developing real ability. And that's why, if you say to one of those pupils, "Play the piece you learned just before this," he says, "I've forgotten it." Now, in learning one's mother tongue, such a thing never happens. You've forgotten the previous piece? I see. Well, how about the one before that? Play a little of it. But here, too, the student answers, "I'm sorry, I don't think I can do it." And if you make him play it, somehow the piece really doesn't come out right. What this means is that even though he hasn't really mastered a piece, he has gone on to the next one and is trying his best to learn it. This method of teaching music, you can see, is far different from the way we learn our mother tongue, and I believe it's a method that cannot develop genuine ability. It was my reflection on this problem that led me to develop the following method. Even though a pupil has basically mastered "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star," that very first piece, I have him keep on practicing it, getting even better and better at it, and comparing his playing to that of his teacher or that of a record. And while he keeps on practicing this first piece, I add the second piece, and I have him practice the two pieces. And in turn, when a pupil can play piece number 2 really well, then I add the third piece, and I have him practice all 1, 2, and 3. I have come to understand that in this way, just as with the learning of his mother tongue, by having each pupil gradually increase the number of, let's say, words which he knows, and by having him continually practice them, that this is the real way to develop the pupil's ability. And for this reason, our teaching method from the very beginning has relied on this technique, which, if we stop to consider, seems really the natural way to learn. And so any of our pupils can, at any time, play any piece that he has learned. The piece he learned earlier, he can now play better and more easily. And so, on occasions like our national conventions, when 3,000 or so pupils assemble, this is readily evident. The first piece played is a Mozart concerto, and even though the 500 or 600 pupils who can play it have come from all over the country, they can still play it together perfectly. Then we progress in order down to easier pieces, with more and more pupils being able to take part in each successive piece, until finally all 3,000 are playing together. And what I want to emphasize is that the children who play the most advanced piece, the Mozart concerto, still have not forgotten the easier pieces, but join in the playing of them too. And the pupils who could not join in playing the most advanced pieces still are able to play every one of the pieces they have mastered. This is because at the monthly group lessons we have, every student happily joins the others in playing all the pieces he has learned. We use this enjoyable review of pieces, which the pupils can play, for developing abilities while getting down to the studying of the real essence of music. And so in my classes, when a pupil has finally mastered a certain piece, that is, when he can play it with no mistakes, then I tell him, well, now you are ready to start. In other words, when he can play it all accurately with no mistakes, then we are ready to start developing ability. And I say, now the real lesson begins. This developing of ability includes comparing one's playing with records and striving to achieve excellence as to rhythm, sound, chords, etc. And it is the study which begins here that really represents a good lesson. In short, this is the way that I have taken the mother tongue method of education, just as we've all experienced it, and have applied it fully in the teaching of music. Here, I would just like to point out that this technique is an essential part of what you all are so kind as to call the Suzuki Method.